We are live on Proline TV for another Pigskin Friday edition. We're talking college football at least one more week. This is the final week we're talking college football on this show as far as just all college football. So that means that we're going to dig in with our final predictions. And then next week, that'll be the Friday actually before the regular season begins in the NFL, which will only be 6 days away. So 2 Fridays from now, the NFL season will already have been kicked off. And that is when Mark Lawrence is going to join me along with Jim Feist. And it's going to be the three of us all through the football season every Friday, 4 o'clock Eastern, right here on Proline TV. Next Friday, still not sure what we're going to do because we are going to be putting together our NFL final predictions on the Playbook Against the Spread on the Playbook Against the Spread podcast, which is going to be next Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. So Jim Feist will be there, Andy Isco, Mark Lawrence, and I, and we're going to give all of our predictions, and including awards, NFL Comeback Player of the Year, MVP. We're going to go over all the awards, give all our picks, all the teams, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to dig in here the following day on the show, but we'll come up with something, and I'm sure it will be more related towards a little bit the NFL, and maybe also considering it will be week 1 for college football. Chances are we'll probably talk a lot of college football again next Friday, but this is the last of our prediction show. Of course, college football season officially kicks off week 0 in just a couple of days in Ireland between Kansas State and Iowa State. We already talked about week 0 on the Playbook show. You can check that out already on the – actually, you can check it out in the Playbook section. You can check it out in the college football section on our channel. And we did it in the beginning of the show. So the first 15, 20 minutes or so, maybe even the first half hour, it was all week 0 games. So you want to check that out. We gave a few picks. So if you're interested in week 0 games in college football, we talked about it on the Playbook podcast. That was yesterday, Thursday at 1 o'clock. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's see. Let's check out as we go through our predictions. We're going to share with you the odds for each conference. All right, I guess I've got to refresh this. Okay, here we go. So let's start in the Power 4 conferences with the ACC. And let me get my picks. And I'm going to be doing it with 4 predictions: the champ, the runner-up, sleeper, and long shot. Now, every conference is different. Every conference is different regarding the odds based on where I would call a sleeper and a long shot. So I'll explain it as we go through. All right. So, and I've talked about some of this stuff already. We've done college football predictions on the Playbook podcast just several weeks ago. You could check that out. You get Andy's picks, Mark's picks, and so forth. But we didn't really go over it like this. And of course, I also did some of these observations and some selections over the last couple of weeks talking college football on this show. All right. But here's the final. All right. So ACC, we're going to go with Clemson in the championship game against Miami. I believe this is the only conference, and I know it's the only conference in the Power 4. Just looking over it, I think there's only one other conference, maybe 2, I'll have to check, where I am going with the top 2 teams based on the Vegas odds. So these are DraftKings odds. So I'm going with Clemson and Miami, with Clemson winning it. So again, because Clemson at this point in time is still my champ, as I explained to Phil Kornblut, who covers Clemson for South Carolina Sports Talk. We did the interview a few days ago, and Phil was trying to, it was like Phil was actually trying to browbeat me a little bit into making sure I knew what I was doing, picking Clemson. Not that he doesn't feel Clemson is going to have a good season, but he's got a lot of questions. And look, it's not that I don't have questions with Clemson. Trust me. I mean, nobody knows who the running back is going to be. We won't know until the season starts. But I went over in detail on that show, if you want to check it out, why I still believe in Clemson. And a lot of it has to do with and that's why this is also very important. This is like an exercise this season for me as handicapping college football, meaning there's never been this much turmoil in the transfer portal, combined with so many players leaving the big programs, with some players going to other programs, but a lot of them going pro. And so there's so much opportunity out there now for other teams, the teams that might have been just a step back or two last year, that get the opportunity now to make a move. Now, most people don't think that they can do that because it's the same old, just because these teams have lost all this talent. This is just the way it's going to be. You're going to get all these transfers in. Everybody's dealing with it. And since everyone's dealing with it, we're still going with the top teams. I don't think, I know for a fact everybody's not going through with it. There are teams like Clemson. I think you could look at a team like Oklahoma that I talked to just 24 or 36 hours ago with Parker Thune of OU Insider. You could check that out. There are some teams, and this is really where I'm going with, that I like the stability. I like and you'll see, like, I know Phil Steele, who does a tremendous job with his magazine. The one thing he does, and he spells it out, is he tells you regarding starters returning, that he puts the starters returning in there based on if you're a transfer from another school and you go and you're a starter and you go to that team, well, he considers that a starter. So, and I'm okay with that. I'm not criticizing him for that. But the point is that there are just a lot of teams that, yes, they're getting starters from other programs and they're moving them in there, but you're going up against other teams that had those starters, a greater percentage of starters that are still on those teams from last year. And if they're well coached and if they have good quarterback play and the schedule permits, then I think those teams are going to catch or possibly pass the other teams. And I'm talking about, we could even start with Ohio State and Texas to open the season. There's so much talent lost from both of those teams, and I can go on and on and on, but I think that's a really good game to look at that says, yes, especially with Arch Manning coming in. He's the biggest, of course, name in the whole deal. And sure, Arch Manning coming in, look, we expect him to have a really good season and all that. And I'm sure Texas is going to be fine and have him in the playoff, but I do think there's going to be a drop back. And that's all I'm saying. So let's get into it. All right. So again, I have Clemson and Miami in the championship game. And I really think Beck's going to have a good year for Miami. I really do. I think there's been too much criticism to Beck, and I don't think it's warranted. So I think Beck is talented enough, and I think he's going to demonstrate that. Miami was an upset loss away from Syracuse from being in the ACC title game last year. I think they're a better team this year, even without Cam Ward, because Beck, I think, is going to do just fine. I don't think honestly, I just don't. If Beck does what I think he can do, then I don't think there's going to be a difference between Ward and Beck with Miami. And I just think Miami's a better team because they're just getting better every year under Cristobal. It shouldn't be a surprise who my sleeper and long shot is. Georgia Tech is going to be my official sleeper at 12-1, and Duke is going to be my official long shot at 25-1. I absolutely love what Manny Diaz is doing at Duke, and I think this is a team that is going to have a shot for sure. What I mean by sleeper and long shot on most of these occasions means that I think that that's my top sleeper and top long shot to get to the championship game and possibly win it. Okay, that's because we were going over sleepers, I think, last week or even the week before, and I was telling you, yeah, some sleepers mean that I think, yeah, they might just have a good season, but others could mean they could win a title. But all of this is just for being in the championship game or winning a title. And I believe Georgia Tech and Duke will be my sleeper and my long shot. And I like both quarterbacks. I like both coaches. And I've gone over this a million times, so you can check out everything that I've said about these two teams over the last few weeks, especially since I interviewed their analysts. So like our official, you can look at it as our Artalads, official insiders for these teams on the Artalads Football Network. And that really gave me a lot better of an indication of who these teams were. Otherwise, just quickly looking through here, Yeah, nothing else really pops up to me. Okay. If you want to find out more about, like I said before, a lot of what we've talked about, we have loads of content over the last several weeks regarding the ACC and all these conferences. Okay. Now it's going to find the Big 12. All right. And we are definitely going with Arizona State here. So yes, Arizona State to me is this is the easiest one. Well, I actually feel pretty good about Clemson too. So if I really think about it, let's see. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the 9 picks in these conference championships. I really didn't have to think twice about. And that's Arizona State's one of them. Now, I'm going to pair Arizona State, and there's definitely a lot of possibilities here, but I'm going to do it with Baylor. And Dave Aranda has really turned the trick there ever since he took over the defensive coordinator duties, and good for him, because that's exactly what he was brought there as a great defensive coordinator. And Sawyer Robertson was I got to tell you right now, a couple of years ago when Sawyer Robertson started, I was like, I don't know about this guy. I did not like what I saw. And I thought that, come on, you got to do something better than this. And even when and I think they might have felt the same way. That's why they went after the kid, DeQuan Finn, that MAC quarterback of the year, who is now back in the MAC. But Sawyer Robertson just took off. And so he is definitely one of the better quarterbacks of the Big 12. So I am taking Baylor to take on Arizona State with Arizona State the victor. And if I didn't say it, of course, Clemson the victor as well in the ACC. My official sleeper is going to be BYU. Now, they did name the freshman Bear Bachmeier, their quarterback, the former Stanford recruit. Look, this is just clearly in this conference, I think a head coach, coordinators, special teams, the best coaching staff in the Big 12 as far as the Big Four. And that goes a long way. Look, LJ Martin, I think this is his year. He has to stay healthy. I've talked about that before. And if he can do that, that'll be huge. Look, if he can't do that, then I don't have as much confidence with BYU because they are going with the freshman quarterback. So he's going to have to take a little bit of the pressure off. But I really do and I think BYU's schedule gives him an opportunity to get a little roll going like last year if all goes well. So I'm going to take BYU as my sleeper and my long shot. And we did talk about this, I believe, last week or the week before, 2 weeks ago, I think, with the Power 4 sleepers, the Cincinnati Bearcats. They have a talented quarterback. They have an underrated coach, I believe. And it's interesting because, look, I've kind of been hard on Satterfield. I really have. But as I said a couple of weeks ago, I think there's a shot for him this year that he can prove that he really does know what he's doing. And I think this is it for him. So, look, I think it can go either way, to be honest with you. I think they could be a sleeper championship team, or they can implode and Satterfield will get fired and he'll have to go back to the Sun Belt or something. And there you go. But I'm going to go with Cincinnati as my top long shot in the Big 12. And other teams do want, I don't. Andy Isco really likes Oklahoma State, which I was surprised about, but good for him. Gundy was almost fired after last season. So, look, I have no problem with Gundy. I think he's been really good for the sport, so I wish him well. I really love the idea of Scott Frost and Rich Rodriguez returning. It's just going to take a while because they have so much turnover. But Arizona is another team under Brett Brennan. And, of course, they've got a very exciting quarterback with potential to keep an eye on. So, in Fafita. So, Arizona would be another one that I would also keep an eye on. Let's now swing on down to the Big Ten. And we are all over Penn State. And by the way, I'm going to make a tiny little bit of an announcement here. It's not official, but we're almost official. It's as official as it can get. And that is that we are going to have a Penn State postgame show. Okay. Now, it's only going to be available on one of our membership platforms. Okay. So that's either going to be Patreon or YouTube. So we'll let you know that next week. But I'm excited about that. And Marty Leap, you've seen him here. He helped us to preview the season about a month or so ago, very early in the process. It was one of the first ones we did. So you can check that out on the college football section of our channel. And he's going to be one of the analysts. So, yes, this is going to be exciting for us. But that's the team that is going to win this conference because they've got one of the top two quarterbacks in the in college football. I don't know how it's going to go down. I actually think it's very possible that it's going to be Nussmeier, Aller, and Klubnik. Those are the top three quarterbacks in the NFL draft. And I am going to put together, and who knows, maybe that's what I'll do next week, but I am going to put together a look at next year's draft early of some of the players that I think are going to be considered top players to keep an eye on this season for the NFL draft. And they are definitely going to be right there at the top. So I really believe, especially based on my predictions, if my predictions are right, then that's going to happen. That Drew Aller, Nussmeier, and Klubnik, I think are going to go potentially 1, 2, 3. I don't know what order, but 1, 2, 3 in the NFL draft. Okay, so again, no big surprise. I'm taking Michigan. I mentioned this also a few weeks ago. So I was completely down on them last year, and you saw why. I knew what they were doing at quarterback before the season started, and I still couldn't believe my eyes. And I knew what was about to happen, and so that's why but I was very, very pleased with how they were still able. This is part of the reason why I like them this year. Part of the reason how they were able to dig themselves out of the worst passing offense that I've ever seen ever in my 40 years plus following this team as my team, out as my 1B team, because Rutgers, it's my 1A as a loyal New Jersey native. So, and because of that, you're going to get some key players coming back this year from that team. And I think their defense is going to be very good. And now they've got a 5-star quarterback that I believe is going to be good enough. I think he's going to be one of these 5-star freshmen that will take off right away. Now, I don't think he's going to be perfect, but I think that over time, as the season wears on, he's going to get better and better and better. And now that's just look. It's anytime you get a side with a true freshman quarterback to go far like that, you better, especially in the Big Ten. Now BYU, I did mention him as a sleeper, but I'm putting Michigan in, over Oregon and Ohio State. That's a lot different than BYU having to go over, Baylor or Arizona State or something like that. So I just think that he's that special. And if he is that special, then that's why I like Michigan here against Penn State. My sleeper will be, because really, if you look at it, these are all the sleeper candidates and long shot candidates. And I'm going to go with USC. Okay. I've said this before. I have Nebraska as a team that I'm going to be picking next year. So I think they're going to make good strides this year. And they might be the sleeper. They really might be. But I think it's going to take them a year. But my official sleeper is going to be USC because I don't think they have a year. And look, I think, and I like USC because there's experience coming back. The quarterback's coming back. A lot of people are down on USC. And remember, they were in a lot of close games last year. So I think they could take that next step. I think it's the perfect scenario. And everybody's down on them. And I think that's a great scenario that they might be able to surprise some people. My official long shot is going to be Illinois at 30-1. And I actually think that that's a big number for Illinois. I expected Illinois to be right here, not down here. So I don't know why they're getting such a big number, but they are, and I think you should take advantage of that. I think they are a true long shot to get to the championship game, Big Ten. They've got experience at quarterback, one of the better experienced quarterbacks in the entire conference. They've got one of the better coaches who knows how to win championships, leading the way. They've got a good defense, a running game. There's a lot to like about Illinois. And I had no problem picking them as my official long shot. And then also in the conference, I mean, Iowa just could be interesting based on the fact that you would think they're going to get better quarterback play. Unfortunately, you lose Caleb Johnson. They still don't have much of a passing game that I can see. And they did lose some really big players on defense, even though we know they're going to be good on defense because they always are. But I just think they lost a little too much. Indiana, I think their only hope is once again a weak schedule. I've said before, I think Washington is a team that's going to surprise a lot of people because they're going to be able to score a lot of points this year. Michigan State's going to be better. And Northwestern's going to be better. Rutgers is going to be a lot better too. So I think there's a good number of teams to look out for on a weekly basis, and we'll be going over that all season of some nice long shots and underdogs to take a look at here in the Big Ten. And then wrapping it up in the SEC for the Power Fours. And we are going to go with Alabama as our SEC championship team and LSU by this much over Georgia. And I had Georgia over LSU by this much for the last few weeks, and I just decided on LSU. And a lot of that just have to do with there's enough returning experience here. You throw in Nussmeier, and I just think that Brian Kelly, this is one of those years that he just cannot not get this team to the SEC championship game when Nussmeier leaves. This is going to be too big of an opportunity for him to miss out on, and there's good talent there. So talent, experience, good coaching, a quarterback, all the ingredients we've talked about. My sleeper is going to be Texas A&M. That's an easy one at 15-1 in my mind. I do think they're going to be better because Marcel Reed is going to be, you would think, better, more experience. Look, there's talent in the running game. There's talent at receiver. There's talent on the offensive line. They've got a defense. The coach is in his second season. I think there's a lot to like this year about Texas A&M, and they came that close. They were an upset against Texas away from going to the SEC championship game last year. And they're better this year, and the conference is more vulnerable this year as well. And then Oklahoma is going to be my long shot. I do think I would look at Florida as a nice sleeper, South Carolina. Who else? I think Missouri is a nice long shot. Vanderbilt I love as a long shot. But Oklahoma is going to be the one that I am going to jump all over. And again, if you want to find out more about Oklahoma, you can check out the interview I did with Parker Thune just a day or two ago. Time just flies by every day here. So anyway, Oklahoma's got some really good returning experience. And most of all, they've got themselves a quarterback. And that was a major issue for them, as you know. But now they've got a quarterback that can not only throw, but he can run. There's talent galore all over this roster. There's experience. The one thing I don't know about is Brent Venables. That's the thing. And honestly, if they had a coach that I believed in, I might be looking at Oklahoma as a national championship team. Just can't think that it would be possible for Brent Venables to win a championship. I don't know if he can pull that off right away. I think he might need at least 1 year this year. Advance. And matter of fact, their win total is 6.5. I think it was like 6.5, which is absolutely ridiculous. So, and look, their schedule is really tough. But if they can't win 7 games with this roster, then Venables is in trouble. But if they can take that next step, maybe they win 8 or 9 games, maybe they get to the playoffs, because all they have to do is win 9 games with that schedule. They're in the playoffs. So get to the playoffs with nine wins. Then next year, Mateer comes back, and you're a better, more experienced team in the playoffs. All that, you can think championship. Okay, now let's go to the AAC. Let's get out of the Power Four. And we are going to have Tulane in the championship game. But I am going to take, just like I said last week, so this is no surprise, I'm taking South Florida. Now, the trick with South Florida, as I said last week, is they've got to beat Boise State. That's it. And they're a 6-point dog. You're getting a little over 2-1 on the money line. So yes, I'm going to obviously take them. I'm taking the money line. I'm going all in. But if they lose that game, they're going to be 0-3. And in a way, I'm not going to say the season's over, but they're not going to the playoffs. It's done. Unless they can pull off an upset that nobody's thinking about. But you have to beat Boise for not just the reason of beating a good team, but you have them at home, and that's the roadblock to getting to the playoffs. You can't lose to Boise at home and expect to go to the playoffs. It's just impossible. So if Boise wins that game, then just like that, for me, it's Boise's in, and I'm done. I'm done with the South Florida pick. But it's all up to one game. I get it, but that's just the way that it is. Okay, so USF and Tulane. And I've got North Texas as the sleeper. Okay. And I've got FAU as the long shot team. Now, look at this gap. Look at all of these teams. Let's see. You have 6 teams, 8-1 or less, and 7, 11-1 or less, and 8, 18-1 or less. And then the other 6 are 150-1 or greater. That shows you the disparity in the conference. So, I mean, I could have taken East Carolina, but I couldn't. I just think they lost too many players from last year. FAU, I like the coach, and I actually think, as a matter of fact, I even wrote it down in my notes, that Florida FAU will be a team that could win this conference next year. That's what I was looking at. I said, get 1 year under the belt, a new coach. Shouldn't take too long in FAU, South Florida, to get some talent in there in this conference. I think you could do it next year. So that's why I figured, all right, if I'm going to take a long shot, I said next year. And they do have a quarterback. So they got a coach I like. They got a quarterback. And FAU still got talent there. So why not? I'll go with FAU as the long shot. And I also have said that I do think Temple with Keener there, he's going to turn things around really nicely. So I think that what a great hire for Temple. Good for them. And they actually have a couple quarterbacks that are just as good, if not better, than several of the other top teams in this conference. So that's going to give them an opportunity to win some games that maybe nobody thinks. So Temple is going to be a team that might be able to pull off a couple of surprises this year to keep an eye on. Conference USA, and this is one of those easy ones for me. Liberty, Louisiana Tech. Even though Louisiana Tech is the third choice with Western Kentucky, Western Kentucky is banking all over the same model that a couple of years ago, let's go and grab a coach from the FCS and get their freewheeling quarterback and bring them here together. And it worked a couple of years ago. But Louisiana Tech, I think, is just a more well-rounded team. I like the experience. And they were a team that lost some really close games last year. I forget how many it was. I know I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on Louisiana Tech. They lost 5 games by 7 points or less, including 3 games in overtime. Okay. So I do like this Louisiana Tech team as the runner-up. And my 2 sleeper long shots will be right here. And I didn't know which one because I didn't have a big long shot because there's not enough teams in this conference. So I just went with, I figured, okay, UTEP's a point better than Middle Tennessee. So UTEP will be my sleeper and Middle Tennessee will be my long shot. Next up, MAC. Another easy one. Toledo is just too good for the rest of the conference, even though they're not as good as they were last year. Okay, so keep that in mind. I am going to go Buffalo. Buffalo will be my second choice. Ohio and Miami of Ohio, the 2 championship teams, just lost too much. And Ohio lost their coach. And Ohio is now in one of those situations that we talk about this, that, a lot of times you can replace that really big coordinator or that really big coach with another really good. Wow, I didn't realize that coach that replaced him was going to be that good. And it worked. But to do it a third time is extremely hard and sometimes really difficult, if not impossible. And that's where Ohio is in right now. I'm not seeing it. I mean, beat me, you know. I'm willing to let Ohio beat me. Now, look, they do have some players coming back on offense, including the quarterback. But Ohio is one of those teams that they don't match up really well against Power Four teams on their schedule, which is why I think that Rutgers line went up. But once you get into the MAC, they're a MAC team. Problem is, like I said, they lost a lot from last year. Buffalo, on the other hand, is going the other way. They're bringing back players. They're going this way. Ohio's going that way with experience. That's why I got Buffalo against Toledo. And then Central Michigan is going to be my sleeper team at 20-1. And they have a new coach. We talked about that last week. And did I do it that way? And maybe I have to switch it around because Western Michigan is 16 and Central Michigan is 20. So we'll do it that way. Let me switch it around. So Western Michigan will be my sleeper and Central Michigan will be my long shot. All right. Now, next, Mountain West. And unfortunately, sort of like the MAC, Boise State's the best team in this conference. No question about that. But the MAC is down. Excuse me. Just like the MAC, the Mountain West is down. At least it's down at the top. Okay, because Boise lost a little bit, even though, yes, they got the quarterback returning. They got a couple of good defensive players returning. They'd be really good on defense. And they're the best team in the conference, but they're not as good as last year's team. They're just not. UNLV, meanwhile, just lost way too much. I mean, they had just lost so much. And yes, Dan Mullen's a good coach, but too much for UNLV. San Jose State will be better, and I like them better than UNLV. Fresno State's got a good coach, but as we talked about last week, we're going to go with Air Force. It's all about finding that quarterback at Air Force. And I do like what I see, especially if they do wind up going with the freshman. So I'm going to go take Air Force. And we all saw what happened at the end of the year, the way they started to play, just like the old Air Force. And Troy Calhoun does not have back-to-back bad seasons very often. So I'm going to take Air Force as the runner-up. And then Hawaii will be our top sleeper. Matter of fact, Hawaii is a good play this week. They are a 2.5-point favorite at home against Stanford. And if Hawaii can't beat Stanford at home, then Hawaii is not going to be as good as I thought they were. But I do think they will be. And so I'm pretty. No, I do understand that when you're talking about, hey, wait a second, Stanford is a dog at Hawaii. What's going on at Stanford? Well, that's what's going on at Stanford? Frank Reich is taking over. He took over late. I mean, like 3 months late that normal coaches take over a program to start their regime. But he's not even, they're going to be their head coach unless, I guess, they can't find a coach and maybe he does better than people think. And hey, we'll just give Frank Reich the job. But from what we understand, Reich is like almost just doing him a favor. No, I'll hold the fort. I'll give you my experience from the NFL, and we'll go from there. Well, how is that going to make Stanford a good team in 2025? It's not like Frank Wright was some genius head coach in the NFL. Okay, now he's a good coach to have in college. Don't get me wrong, especially for a bottom feeder in the ACC like Stanford has become. But there's still just a bottom feeder. You've got, how are you going to recruit players and transfers there, especially when you got to be an egghead to play there? How are you going to recruit those guys when the guys don't even know who their head coach is going to be next year? So there's just not enough talent there. And if Hawaii can't beat them, then like I said, I think they got bigger problems than I thought. Not that I think they have problems, but all right. So we're going with Hawaii as our sleeper. And then as the long shot, I do think there are some teams to look at that will be better than people think. New Mexico could be better. Nevada could be better. Utah State could be a little bit interesting. There are some teams, but even San Diego State. But we're going to go with Wyoming. As we said last week, we really like the quarterback a lot. And if he winds up playing as good as he is capable of, as long as he stays healthy, then we're talking about maybe quarterback of the conference for 2025, but he's going to have to go out and do it. And it's the second year with the new coach, all of that. So I'm going to take Wyoming as my sleeper, long shot. And one more, right? Sunbelt. Another easy one because they have the splits. This is like the only conference that has East or West. So, you have to take, and I'm saying that because I really like Old Dominion. I think they're the second best team in the conference, but they're not, they're in the same division as James Madison. So it's James Madison versus Louisiana in the championship game. And then my official sleeper is going to, where's my sleeper? Well, I'm going to call Old Dominion my sleeper because let's see, they're 2, 3, 4, 5. They are the 6th pick in the Sun Belt. So I'm going to call them my sleeper because I don't like these teams. Okay. And the only other team I really like that I think is going to do a better job than people think, Louisiana Monroe. So Louisiana Monroe is going to be my long shot pick in the Sun Belt Conference. Okay. Now, I'm just going to give you my top 12. And if you haven't checked out the playbook show from a few weeks ago, I'll give you the 4 and the champ. So here are the futures right now overall to win the championship. So, and the way I did it, just so I'm going to go over, is I just did it based on who I am going to go in the Final Four with. And then I just kind of put it to, well, you'll see. All right. So I've got 1 being Clemson. So here they are at 10. 2 being Penn State at 7. Then I've got a team that I really haven't talked a lot about because we keep talking about conferences, but Notre Dame doesn't have one. But I still like Notre Dame. It's all going to depend on the freshman quarterback. The young quarterback. And just like with Michigan and with BYU, you bring in these young quarterbacks and you just don't know. But a lot of teams are bringing in young quarterbacks so that have no experience. So Notre Dame is going to be my choice there. And Alabama, my SEC pick, is going to be in the top 4 as well. Again, Clemson I have on top. I have Clemson, Penn State in the championship game. And I just can't stay. And it's an easy pick for me because, come on, am I going to take James Franklin against Dabo Swinney? Why would I do that? So that's my pick there. And then my 5th pick is actually good. I figured let me just stay in the top team in the Big 12. That's Arizona State. So where is Arizona State? 100-1. I like that actually. Obviously, if I got them 5th, the Big 12 champ. So I put money on Arizona State. Do I think they're going to win the championship? No, but hey, if they win the Big 12 again and they've got the experience from last year, then why not? Maybe they could surprise. If there's going to be a year to do that, this could be the year. And then rounding out the top 12, Georgia, Michigan, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Ohio State, and then my group of 5 pick, which you already know. I'm not even sure where are they all the way down here. Where's South Florida? Where would South Florida be? I don't even know if they're on this board, to tell you the truth. They'd probably be so far down here. Yeah, I don't know where they are. Oh, there they are. 1,000-1, South Florida. Big. Give me the odds for them to make the playoffs. That'd be good odds. I'll take that. Okay. So the teams I do not have in that would be considered a big team would be Oregon. And who else? Yeah, Oregon would be the big loss. That's it. So I've got all the other teams in. I didn't, I don't have a lot of big, well, how could you not have so-and-so in the playoffs? So really the only team you might think that some of my Final Four picks or championship pick or any other picks might be a little bit weird, but Oregon is the only team I don't have in. And I just think they just lost too much in my mind. And I think at least, and also, guys, I said this, and when we did the Oregon show, and I'll say it again. Look, in a few weeks when the season begins, and you get to see all of these young quarterbacks all over college football play a little bit. Okay, not the first game against FCS teams, but let everybody play for a few weeks, and I'll have a much better idea about all these teams because there's so many young quarterbacks that nobody knows how they're going to play. And Oregon's one of them. All right. So maybe Dante Moore is going to go out there and he's going to be the quarterback that everybody thought he was going to be when he stepped foot at UCLA a couple of years ago. Well, okay, go out there and prove it. But the problem is my lasting impression wasn't all that great. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have potential to be a good quarterback. All I'm saying is that now he's got to take over Dylan Gabriel was your starter, and now you're going to Dante Moore. I mean, that's a drop-off, major drop-off. And then they lost a bunch of other key players. So I can see them losing 3 games this year. And if they lose 3 games and go 9-3, I think you could have a bunch of teams at 9-3. Then that's just to me that they're the odd man out. But again, let me see them play. Let me see Dante Moore play in his first month. And I could have a completely different idea of Oregon football. But there's a lot of guessing going on this season with all these young quarterbacks playing. All right. Let's wrap up with the Heisman. So let's give you a good one where we can make some money on. I'm not going to give you the obvious ones, but even though 16-1 is not all that bad. 16-1 as 18-1 is not bad. Let's see. Let's find a good one. Ty Simpson, 20. Mateers is the type of quarterback that can win a Heisman because of his rushing ability, especially he's in a big program. That's a good number. I don't think a Notre Dame running back, I don't know. The Love is he's got the talent to be a top 10 draft pick in the NFL. You just didn't get the opportunity to see that last year because he was injured during the playoffs. But a healthy Jeremiah Love, if he gets to the playoffs this year, could be the big difference that Notre Dame needs since they don't have the experience of quarterback. But I think this is not bad. I think it's okay. I mean, he's going to, how much is he going to get the opportunity to run the ball? That's the thing. Are they going to feed him enough like a workhorse? I don't know. They might. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, again, he's coming off the injury. They might not want to do that, but he is 28-1. That's not a bad number. Look, they still have this other kid, Novosad, who was battling with Moore. Now, I don't even know. Let me see if they've made their decision, because this is a point. This is a great point. Is that, has Dante Moore even won the job? Let's see. Oregon Ducks football quarterback. Well, it says Dante Moore is impressing in fall camp. Situation starting to shape out. So it does look like Dante Moore is going to be the guy. All right. Anyway, who else? Who's a good number here? Let's get a nice little, let's see. I don't think Marcel Reed is a good enough passer to be considered for the Heisman. Too young. Let's see. Come on, it's got to be a good long shot here. Dylan Raiola. I don't know. Heisman? I don't know about that. That'd be big. There's one of the nice young quarterback there. Keep an eye on. Wow. Haynes King. Absolutely. I would put 90-1 on Haynes King. Because if Georgia Tech, since I have them as a sleeper for a reason, if they get to the ACC championship game, and if they win, let's say they beat Georgia, even though I don't know if that's too late for the voting, because a lot of times the minds are made up by then. But let's say it's still a 2 or 3 man race and he's like in the picture and then comes out and has this monster game against Georgia. So yes, I think Haynes King, he is an awesome college quarterback. So I would go 90-1. We've got a long shot now. So we found a long shot. Anyone else that looks like that we can jump on here with? Diego Pavi is also an awesome college quarterback. If Vanderbilt actually won a lot more games than people think, then why not? but boy, they would have to. It would have to be early. I don't know who they playing early. Are they playing anybody early enough to come up with a huge upset like they did last year at Alabama? Let me see. At Virginia Tech, at South Carolina. So let's say they start the season. They'd have to start the season 4-1 and beat Alabama at Alabama. And if they could do that, which I don't think they're going to do, but if they can do that, then why not? But I just don't think he's got he needs a little bit of the passing game, and they just don't have an explosive passing game at Vanderbilt. Let's see. Anything else? Mensa does not have the juice as far as the program. I love Mensa as a quarterback. He's got NFL potential. Caleb Downs, love Downs. He's going to be a top 10 draft pick. This is actually not a bad idea, Caleb Downs. But I don't know unless they play him. See, when guys like Caleb Downs, sort of like you saw with Hunter and Woodson, if you play defense, you got to also play a little bit of offense. So unless they plan on doing that with Caleb Downs, it just, I don't see it. Anybody else? There's Fafita. Singleton, I tell you right now that if Katron Allen or Singleton were to get hurt early in the season for the year, let's say they're out, one of them would be a good choice because they're canceling each other out by both being there and both sharing the load. But if they have to take over as the number one running back, it's not a bad idea to put a little bit of money on both of them just in case something like that happens. Anyone else? I love Ahmad Hardy. Maybe I would do Ahmad Hardy at 250-1. It's Missouri though, so that's not good. That's not going to help him any. Even though, again, like I said, he's definitely one of the reasons I think Missouri could be a nice little sleeper team or long shot team, I should say, in the SEC. And I think that's it. All right, so there you go. Reed's a really exciting player. Okay. So that is going to do it for our Pigskin Friday edition. A little bit later on here on the show on Proline TV, we are going to talk some NASCAR. They've got some practice and qualifying to get to at Daytona for the final regular season race before the playoffs begin a week from Sunday, I believe it is. So I'll be on the air in a couple hours to talk. And that'll be one of the shows that we do not do live. So we'll do that behind the scenes, and then we'll post the video a little bit later on tonight. Other than that, that's going to wrap things up for the rest of the week. We do not have anything over the weekend as far as I know just yet, but we will be putting videos out as we always do. And we'll also have another video from Kevin Rogers, who will be giving his picks if you're into NASCAR. That'll be tomorrow morning. And then next week, we got a boatload more of college and NFL interviews. I am just flooded with interviews. Let me tell you what's up next week. All the different interviews, starting with college. So next week, next week, because college football season starts, I only got one interview, and that's with Richard O'Leary from Rutgers Rivals. So we'll talk to him Rutgers. So I saved him for last. Because that is the last college football interview I'm going to have before the season begins. Well, before week one begins. That does not mean, but once the season begins, like week one and so forth, I'm going to be interviewing these same guys every time there's an opportunity to. There's a big game coming up, so the interviews are not done. It's just the season, the 30 minute to 75-minute interviews to preview the season. Those ones are done. Now we're going to each week when we get into what's going on and who's hot, who are the hot teams to keep an eye on, big games coming up. Then we'll have these nice little 15, 20-minute interviews with a lot of cool analysts from these teams, including Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report at On3. Tom is going to join me the week of the Iowa State game, which means I think that's going to be coming up in 2 weeks. Jody Demling, who is the publisher of Cardinal Authority, is going to join me for the Louisville James Madison game. Big game for Louisville to go up against James Madison, and of course a huge game for James Madison. So, but that's just the beginning regarding the college football interviews once the season's beginning, because I have so many others that I'm going to be just going after once I have time to take a look at the schedule and line them all up. But NFL, because the season does not begin until a week from Thursday. Next week, we've got 4, 5, 6, 7 interviews. So we have 2 on Monday, 1 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday, 2 on Friday. So we've got the Colts and the Ravens on Monday, Arizona Tuesday, Tampa Bay, Buffalo on Wednesday, the Chiefs and Seattle on Friday. And then the week of the regular season, we already have 2 of them lined up, Patriots and Saints, which leaves us with only 5 more teams. Okay, that'll be 27 teams that we'll have interviewed, analysts that we'll have interviewed to preview the NFL. But we're already lining them up for Green Bay, Houston, Las Vegas, and the Rams, which leaves 1 more. It's the Cincinnati Bengals. So I'll figure out a way to get a Bengal analyst on. But if all goes well, all of these guys can hook up these interviews with us before now and the season begins, and that'll give us all 32 teams to interview. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next Friday here on Pigskin Fridays on Proline TV. And yes, don't forget to subscribe if you've never subscribed before. Hit that like button. We really appreciate that. That helps us out as well. And let me know what you think about my predictions. Let me know what your predictions are. If you've got any really good long shots, sleepers, things like that, or who you like for the national championship. And we'll see you real soon, once again, here on Proline TV.